Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Lunchbox webinar series. We would like to welcome and acknowledge our partner, the Lifetime Foundation, for sponsoring this webinar event and to say thank you for all the support that the Lifetime Foundation provides for the Chef Ann Foundation. On today's webinar, we're going to share with you the outcomes of a USDA Farm to School grant that the Chef Ann Foundation received. As a result of this grant, we have 50 new farm to school recipes, along with a 6-week menu cycle to show you. Everything is credited to the USDA K-12 menu pattern and the new CACFP menu pattern. We will also share where you can find best practices for lunchroom-based nutrition education. In addition, you'll get to hear from Andrea Northup, the USDA Farm to School, and Jerilin Nunu from USDA Farm to Summer and Child Care about how school districts across the country are procuring food from local and regional farms and ranches, and the resources that the USDA has to offer you. Let's begin with some introductions. My name is Heidi Kessler, and I'm the Chef Ann Foundation Chief Programs Officer. Running the webinar is Sarah Flynn, our Marketing and Education Manager, and Emily Gavelin, our Administrative and Programs Associate. First off, let's begin with a little bit about the Chef Ann Foundation. Founded in 2009 by Chef Ann Cooper, a pioneer in school food reform, the Chef Ann Foundation works to ensure that children across America have access to fresh, healthy food at school. Our expertise lies in providing operational support, technical assistance, and online resources to effect school food change. By providing school food operators and their school communities with tools, trainings, resources, and funding, we help schools create healthier food for their students. Our vision is to help schools take action so that every child in every school has access to fresh, nutritious food every day. We are so proud that to date, we have reached over 2.7 million children in nearly 8,000 schools in all 50 states. Here you can see the agenda of what we will be covering today. But before we get started, I just want to go over a few housekeeping notes. We have a pretty large group of participants today, and we're going to try to allow 15 minutes for questions after the presentation is over. Sarah and Emily will be tracking the questions, and we encourage you to type your questions as you think of them rather than waiting until the presentation is completed. You can type a question into the question and answer box. If you have any technical issues during the presentations, you can also type them in the question and answer, and we'll be here to assist you. All right, allow me to introduce our guest speakers. Andrea Northup is the USDA Farm to School Regional Lead, supporting farm to school programs in the Mountain Plains region based in Denver, Colorado. Prior to joining the USDA, Andrea was a farm to school coordinator at Minneapolis Public Schools in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Andrea has experience working in the nonprofit sector as she was the founder and director of the DC Farm to School Network. Andrea has degrees from Tufts University in environmental engineering and community health. Jerilin Nunu joined FNS in September 2014, and prior to becoming a member of the CACFP SFSP team, Jerilin worked with the state of Utah as the Department of Health's Commodity Supplemental Food Program Coordinator for 4 years. She has a background in public health and is committed to helping others improve their health and living situations through public health practices and programs. As a daughter of a dairy farmer, Jerilin holds local foods close to her heart and wishes to share the importance of knowing where our food comes from, and she sees farm-to-child nutrition program as a great opportunity to accomplish that. As you can see, we have some great experts to speak with us. Welcome, Andrea and Jerilin. I'll let you take it away.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. We're from the USDA Office of Community Food Systems, and just for some background, the USDA is the entity that oversees the child nutrition programs, so the school meal programs, child and adult care feeding programs, summer meal programs, and so we're going to talk about how to incorporate the concept of community food systems into these child nutrition programs. So hold up, what is a community food system? The way we define it, it's a food system that's actually designed to improve the health of a community. And we're talking health in a very broad sense, so the environmental health, economic, social, and nutritional health. So our goal is to incorporate this concept of community food systems in our child nutrition programs. So the way USDA is set up is that we have 7 different regions. They're shown here on the screen, and at the website below, you can find your farm-to-school regional lead, as well as your farm-to-child and adult care food program and summer lead, so that you can get in contact with them and get some help around community food systems. So when we're talking about incorporating community food systems in child nutrition programs, we're talking about both local food in school meals and other meals, and food education and hands-on food and nutrition activities. So we're talking about our school program, farm to school, local foods in school meals, and getting kids excited about local food. We're talking about our summer meal program, a great chance to work in local food because we all know that summer is when a lot of stuff is growing. The child and adult care food program, which Jerilin will really dive into next. We're also talking about different communities we serve, like tribal communities. School gardens and hands-on gardening education are definitely incorporated in the farm-to-child nutrition program model. Other things might include farm field trips and hands-on educational opportunities, such as bringing farmers into schools and cafeterias, and getting kids jazzed about nutrition and food education. So we're talking more than just this concept of getting local foods into school lunch. It's a little bit broader than that, and we're excited about that. Another framework to think about farm-to-child nutrition programs is the classroom community cafeteria model. We're trying to incorporate local food and food education into the classroom, engage the community, and get it onto our cafeteria trays. I think school gardens fit quite squarely right in the middle of this model because they are a learning classroom, they're a community space, and sometimes they can actually provide food for the cafeteria. So we all know that there are many benefits to getting kids engaged in local food and eating healthy. Their willingness to try new foods, they actually are proven to increase consumption of healthy options, a lot of great benefits. So the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act is the law that actually created an office within USDA to focus on farm to school. We've since broadened that to the Office of Community Food Systems, but in the actual law, it directs us to coordinate grant funding, training and technical assistance, and provide research and data for folks around farm to school and farm to child nutrition programs. So I'm going to talk about these 3 components of the Office of Community Food System, the first being grants. So every year we distribute about $5 million in grants to schools, farms, nonprofit organizations, and others. For example, the Chef Ann Foundation received a Farm to School grant to create the great recipes and menu cycles that we're going to talk about today. I'll give you a few more examples of grant recipients. Kansas City Healthy Kids is a nonprofit organization that coordinates cooking workshops for school lunch staff and taste tests for kids on the recipes that they work on. So a nonprofit organization serving a bunch of schools in the Kansas City area. In Ferguson, Missouri, the school district employs high school students during the summer, so they get paid, to actually learn culinary skills and prepare fresh produce, preserving it to use later on in the school year in school meals. Another grantee, the Intertribal Buffalo Council, works with schools all over the Mountain Plains region to remind them of the traditional importance of buffalo and do training on recipe development and taste testing around incorporating more buffalo into school meal recipes. When it comes to technical assistance, we provide a lot of different awesome fact sheets and resources that are all available on our website. The website's at the link here at the bottom of the screen, and you can search for all sorts of different fact sheets and topics that are relevant to your program. We have a great farm-to-school toolkit that can actually help your community walk through the process of incorporating more local food and food education. And it's tied to a series of webinars to kind of bring those concepts to life. That also can be found on the website. And finally, our regional leads and CACFP and summer contacts are sometimes available to come out and conduct trainings or speak at conferences and things like that. I chose this picture because that's Chef Ann in the middle there, and that's me on the right. When it comes to research, the main thing that we conduct is the farm-to-school census. You can find it at the website below, and what this is every couple of years, we poll all of the schools in the United States to figure out what foods they're buying locally, what challenges they're coming across, how many school gardens they have, and a number of other questions like that. You can actually drill down to the school district level and figure out what schools in your communities are participating in farm-to-school activities. You can also look at state or regional level data to find trends. So I'm going to pass it over to Jerilin Nunu, and she's going to talk about our Farm to CACFP program.
Thank you, Andrea. Good afternoon. As Andrea said, my name is Jerilin Nunu, and I've been working with the Office of Community Food Systems now for about 2 years, with Farm to Child Care and Farm to Summer being my specialty area. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to speak with you all today and share a bit about USDA and Farm to Preschool Child Care and Summer. There we go. All right, so just to a little bit more about Farm to Preschool Child Care and its benefits. I want to talk about that so we're all on the same page. The core elements of Farm to Preschool Child Care are twofold: local food and food education, just like Farm to School. So we'll go over the what and why of Farm to Child Care, the support of USDA for Farm to Child Care, and the best practices using local foods in the child care setting. So what and why of Farm to Child, or CACFP? First, I want to acknowledge that many of the state agencies in the Mountain Plains region, as well as the nation, are already making great efforts to implementing farm activities and local foods in their setting. By no means is this list comprehensive. I just wanted to highlight a few that I know of here in our region of Mountain Plains. Nebraska has a very extensive Farm to Preschool website on the Nebraska Education website. Iowa has a Farm to Child Care website and a webinar explaining how to expand Farm to Child Care in a center or a sponsor setting for summer or a child care setting. And Wyoming has developed a great guide that defines how to create a farm to preschool garden. So I recommend that you check out their websites if you need some guidance on how to get your own going. So what is Farm to CACFP? I just want to clarify that the USDA views preschool as being in the school meals program, where CACFP and summer meals are served outside of the school meals program. We all have the same goal, and that is to get nutritious, healthy food into the bellies of our young children, but we have a few different rules that we have to abide by. And gardening supports both of the core elements of food education and using local foods in meals. So with the new meal pattern rule on the horizon, Farm to CACFP efforts can be key in increasing young children's willingness to try new foods. In fact, Farm to Child Care is recognized by the CDC as a strategy to improve early eating habits and prevent obesity. So why Farm to Child Care? The Healthy Hungry Free Kids Act expanded the purpose of the CACFP to include a more holistic approach focused on wellness and healthy development. So you can see that this is a very important factor for the USDA as well. Farm to Preschool Child Care connects children with where their food comes from, and this can occur in many different ways, including hands-on classroom activities, as well as bringing the kids to the farms, nearby farms on field trips. And you can see that the nutrition education piece of Farm to Preschool Child Care all have the goal of engaging little ones with where their food is coming from. Farm to Preschool Child Care can also provide a new market for local and regional farmers, ranchers, fishermen, as well as food processors, manufacturers, and distributors. With daily opportunities to serve local foods through the CACFP, there's the potential of improving the local economy as well. So again, connecting that community food system. Now let's take a look at how the USDA Farm to Child Nutrition Programs work, specifically CACFP. The Local Foods in CACFP Policy Memo provided guidance on an extensive Q&A that covers procurement of local foods, growing food, and donations. This memo also clarifies that the costs associated with growing food that will be used in the meal service or for nutrition education are allowable costs. So some of these costs could include seeds, fertilizer, labor, plot rental, etc., anything to do with food education, gardening education, and that sort of thing. Here are some helpful resources. These websites offer great resources for all child nutrition programs, and I encourage you to go to each one of them and learn more about what is available if you have not already done so. And revisit them. They're always updating them. The best practices using local foods. One of the best practices that I know of is actually getting kids outside and into the garden and really participating in how their food grows. Some ideas of how to use local foods within the CACFP meal patterns would be these listed here. As simple as taking one of the two required components of a snack, making that a local vegetable or fruit, or choosing local produced foods in meals or seasonal options that are available in your area. One great example that I recently learned about was from Montana. The Montana State University Child Development Center created an edible garden that children are fully involved in, and they go from the full beginning of the plant cycle to the end, harvesting and using that in a meal at the center. They also purchase foods from a local CSA that are used in CACFP reimbursable meals. So this is an effective option for centers that may not need larger orders of food. They can choose local meats, dairies, and other produce available through those community-supported agriculture systems that are available. And often CSAs will have additional products available from other local sources, such as cheese and breads. All you have to do is ask and see what they have. You might be surprised. So Farm to School grants and CACFP have been something that was started a couple of years ago. Many school districts are expanding to include garden activities and procurement at CACFP sites. The components can also include summer programs as well. The menus and recipes created by the Chef Ann Foundation are full of healthy options that can be integrated into the CACFP and summer program cycle menus. Thank you for your interest in Farm to Child nutrition programs. I will turn the time over to Heidi.
The change in your office name from Farm to School to the Office of Community Food Systems. It definitely reflects your broader mission. What a fantastic evolution. All right, so let's dive into our next agenda item, which is the outcomes of the Chef Ann Foundation's Farm to School grant. We're the lucky recipient of one of the grants that was described previously by Andrea. So in December 2015, we received this grant, and it enabled us to create free and accessible tools for the implementation and expansion of farm-to-school and farm-to-child care practices. Our project goal was to help school districts and preschool providers adopt farm-to-school menu planning in their operations. To do this, we wanted to increase the availability of farm-to-school-based recipes and menu cycles. The Chef Ann Foundation is pleased to offer 6 one-week menu cycles featuring 50 new farm-to-school recipes that are available for pre-K through 12th grade. In addition, we created new farm-to-school tools and resources and created a nutrition education best practices database. This grant would not have been possible without the support of our amazing partners and project team. We have many partners, and it also included school food experts who shared recipes for our team to review, test, and include in the menu cycle. These partners included Boulder Valley School District, Minneapolis Public Schools, Vermont Feed, Washington State Schools, In Harvest, Project Bread, and Whole Foods Market. So where can you find all these amazing resources that I'm describing? They're on the Lunchbox. The Lunchbox is an online toolkit of recipes, menu cycles, usable spreadsheets, guides, and other resources to help school food leaders, parents, and administration improve school food. I'm going to take you there live during this webinar in just a moment to look at the recipes and menu cycles. But first, I'd like to show you a couple screenshots of other important pages that you can visit at another time. All right, let's begin with local procurement. On the Lunchbox, we have an entire segment dedicated to local and regional procurement tools and guidelines. The current procurement resources focus on developing a school district's capacity for identifying how locally produced dairy, produce, and meats can become a basis of the school district's menu cycle. Be sure to visit this page. Next up, we have a farm-to-school page. Every successful and sustainable farm-to-school program includes an educational component. Because as you know, we can offer all the fresh fruits and local foods that we want, but we can't force our kids to eat them. And that's why, as part of this USDA Farm-to-School grant, we've expanded the farm-to-school operational tools and resources, which include downloadable marketing tools that schools can use as models for their own marketing and outreach program, all available for free download on the Lunchbox. All right, the Chef Ann Foundation also promotes local and regional procurement practices of fresh fruits and vegetables through our Salad Bars to Schools and Project Produce grant programs. That's why, with support from the Walmart Foundation and this USDA Farm to School grant, we created an expandable database of successful experiential lunchroom-based nutrition education activities and associated marketing tools that schools can use as models for their own marketing and outreach programs. This is a searchable and growing database that contains real-life examples of how schools have been successful. All right, so let's get to the really fun stuff, the recipes and the menu cycles. I promise I'm going to walk you live to the resources, but I want to let you know that the first time you go to the lunchbox.org, you'll be asked to provide some basic information about yourself. A little screen will pop up when you first visit, a green bar on the right of your screen. It's going to ask you for your name and who you are. By providing this information, it helps let us know more about where you come from. Are you from a school and a district? Are you a child care provider? Are you a parent? This helps us track our downloads so that we can report back to our funders. Okay, back to recipes. To accomplish our tasks around recipe and menu cycle development, the Chef Ann Foundation worked with our operational partner, which is the Boulder Valley School District in Boulder, Colorado, to select, test, photograph, and analyze 50 farm-to-school recipes and to create 6 one-week menu cycles. To begin, the project team reviewed and selected recipes from our project partners, including Vermont Feed, Minneapolis Public Schools, Project Bread, Boulder Valley School District, Washington State Schools, In Harvest, and Whole Foods Market. Then these recipes were tested in a real school kitchen, they were revised and retested, they were tested with real kids in real schools, revised and retested to finally land on recipes that we are sure are going to work for you. Then we conducted the nutrient analysis to ensure USDA meal compliance, and finally we adjusted the recipes and menus to comply with the pre-K CACFP menu standards. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. The recipes and menu cycles are now posted on the lunchbox.org. So let's go take a look. All right, so here we are on the lunchbox.org for our live walkthrough. All right, so on this top menu bar, I am going to hover over recipe and menus and then click on recipes. And this is going to bring us to the Lunchbox recipe database. This database is incredible. There are over 300 recipes in here, and including the 50 new farm to school ones. All of these recipes, every single one of the recipes that you can find here have been kitchen tested and kid tested, and every recipe has been credited to the USDA meal pattern. So you don't have to worry about figuring out how it credits for your ounce equivalents of grain or your ounce equivalents of meats. We've done all that work for you. All right, I'm going to scroll down, and here you can see the recipes. You can see that some are designated K-8, 9, 12. For the ones that say PK, that stands for pre-K, preschool, or pre-kindergarten. So for the recipes that are defined pre-K, we worked hard to make sure that these recipes are credited to the CACFP meal pattern that was published in April 2016. This is the same meal pattern that is targeted to be implemented on October 1st, 2017, but I want to encourage everyone to make sure to check in with your state agency about the latest and greatest updates around the meal pattern in case there have been any changes or additions that come up in the next few months. So let's look at a real recipe here. Under Show, I'm going to look at all categories, and here you can see you can filter the recipes by what category, and I'm going to take us to chicken because every school I've ever been in serves chicken. So let's take a look at these chicken recipes. So again, you can see K5, K6, 12, K8, and pre-K. Let's look at sesame noodles chicken because that sounds really good. And it's also an example of a recipe that uses commodity chicken plus local vegetables. All right, so here we are on our first recipe. You can see that the recipe source was Vermont Feed, VTF, up at the top. That was tested, revised, and retested in our local kitchens with our kids. The batch quantity that was tested was 118, but as you can see over on the right, it says standard yield, and there's a box. You can type in any yield that you want to do. If you have 50 kids, you can type that in here and click Scale Recipe, and if you have 500 kids, you can type that in here and click Scale Recipe. You can see that the portion size is 1 cup or 6 ounces by weight. Let's look down at the ingredients. All right, so here we have the ingredients. You can see onion, garlic, ginger. I feel like we are not seeing all of the ingredients here. That's okay. So the ingredients are listed here. You can see for the red pepper, it's 1 pound, 1 ounce. For the chicken thighs, you can see that it's 15 pounds and 2 ounces. I feel like this is not the complete list, but it has been the complete list every other time I have checked it, so I feel confident that when you go to check it, it will be the complete list. The recipe instructions are right here in this next tab. And here you can even see the description of the commodity chicken that was purchased to make it as easy as possible for you. Now, I think this is a very important tab, the next tab, the food groups menu pattern. This shows you that this recipe, with the serving size described as 1 cup or 6 ounces by weight, provides 1.5 ounce equivalents of your meat alternate and 1 ounce equivalent of your grain. And then finally, we're able to see a photo of what this recipe looks like. Look at that gorgeous school lunch photo. All right, a couple other buttons on this page to show you. We can click on analysis. Do any of you have the school nurse coming wanting to know the number of carbohydrates in your entree today? You can click on analysis. Over on the right, you'll see the category nutrient value per serving. You can kind of look down that column and see that there are 25 grams of carbohydrate per serving. So that's some helpful information for you. I'm going to close out of here and click on the next button, which is costing, which is how much does this recipe cost? So these numbers are based on the actual cost to make it at Boulder Valley School District, purchasing these ingredients. If you look down the column of cost per serving, you can see the cost of each individual item, as well as the total cost that this recipe as an entree for a K-8 school and a 1-cup serving is about 52 cents per serving. So some really helpful information all over this recipe page. All right, so this is just one example of all the recipes that you can look on, the 50 new farm to school ones and 333 total recipes in this database. So let's think about how this recipe could possibly fit into a menu cycle, all right? So because we made 6-week menu cycles. So I'm going to go back up to the top and hover over recipes and menus and scroll down to menu cycles and click it. Okay, so here we are on our menu cycle page. All right, I'm going to scroll down and you can see the tabs in orange. The recipe that we just looked at for sesame noodle chicken was for K-8. So I'm going to take a look at the K-8 menu cycle. You can see we have some for breakfast, but I'm going to click over to lunch. So not only do we have the 6-week menu cycle calendar view, which I'm going to check out first. I'm going to click download and we're going to look at the calendar view. So here is a 6-week menu cycle that meets the USDA National School Lunch Program menu pattern. And what I want to do is I want to see where's those sesame noodles on this calendar. Hope everyone can see this. Scrolling down a little bit, and I see in week 3, on the 23rd, we're offering the sesame noodles chicken for K-8 recipe, the salad bar meal recipe, a salad bar side, a fruit side, and some milk. So I want to drill down into that day a little bit and see exactly how that day credits to the meal pattern as part of a menu cycle. So now that I know it's in the 3rd week, I'm going to go and I'm going to look in the week 3 and click of the menu cycle tab and look at USDA certification. So this probably looks familiar, this spreadsheet, to all of you who have qualified for your 6-cent reimbursement with the new meal pattern. And looking down, I can see the sesame noodles chicken day. These are the total credits of that day to the meal pattern. So if you were to serve every item that is on that menu cycle on the 23rd, this day, with the primary entree being sesame noodles chicken, here is exactly how it credits to your weekly meal plan. So we think that this is a really valuable and useful resource. We want folks on the ground in the kitchens to be able to focus on making delicious tasting recipes and interacting with your students, and less time having to figure out ounce equivalents and how it credits to your meal pattern. So we've tried to do that work for you. All right, so I hope that everyone now has a really good idea of how you can see the menu cycles and the recipes. All right, I'm going to take us back out of our live web view. All right, And here we are to our final slide. Thank you, Andrea and Jerilin, for the great information that you shared with us. Everyone, I hope that you've enjoyed this webinar and enjoyed seeing the free, easily accessible resources that can help you and preschool providers expand and sustain your farm-to-school programs. Andrea, Jerilin, and I are here to stick around for the next several minutes to see what questions you have and how we can answer them. All right, let's take a look at the questions. All right, so the first question that we have, and I'm going to direct this to Jerilin and Andrea, is doing farm to school more expensive?
Well, I think the example from the Chef Ann Foundation recipe that we just saw shows you that if you manage your food costs well, you can actually incorporate local foods in a way that doesn't break the bank. By doing things like using USDA commodity chicken or other low-cost items in balance with fresh local fruits and vegetables or other products, can really help you find that financial balance while still bringing in local products.
Excellent. That's really great to hear. Thank you. So some questions are coming in, but I also really want to encourage all the folks that are on the line that you have live access right now to us here at the Chef Ann Foundation. We are so lucky to have Andrea and Jerilin's time, so please feel free, be brave, ask your question. We would love to answer them. All right, another one I am going to direct to Jerilin and Andrea is, what food safety requirements do we need to have put in place to serve local products?
Well, actually, there's somewhat of a myth out there that USDA has specific additional food safety rules for local products. And in reality, local foods have to just meet the same requirements that folks would otherwise be using for their fresh produce. So you don't need to really, from our perspective, add on additional food safety requirements. However, your school or local health department may have other reasons why you may want to check into a local farmer's food safety qualifications. Some of the things that I recommend doing are having farms provide a most recent water test, having product liability insurance, and having a food safety plan that they're using.
Excellent. That's really good information. Thank you. That's good to know. All right, another one for Jerilin and Andrea. How do daycare centers account for produce that is donated or that we grow ourselves?
That's a great question. The answer to that is that centers using gardens that produce gardens produce is donated or that they may got out of their own garden should actually weigh this produce and or account for the volume of that, and then just document that as if they had received it from a vendor or from a food provider.
Excellent. Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Jerilin and Andrea, are there other places where we can find more farm-to-school or farm-to-childcare recipes?
Well, the USDA has a website with a number of USDA-approved recipes, and it's called the Mixing Bowl, if you search for that on USDA's website. One of my favorite recipe resources is the Vermont Farm to School recipe book that was published a few years ago, and it sounds like had some crossover or inspiration with the Chef Ann Foundation recipes as well. So a lot of great resources out there, but I think folks can keep themselves busy with the 300 recipes here on the Chef Ann Foundation site.
Excellent, excellent, very nice. Okay, a question here. If the lunchbox recipe says it credits as 0.25 vegetable, is that 25 cups or a quarter cup of vegetable? And the answer is a quarter cup of vegetable. So if something says it credits as 0.25, that means a quarter cup. Excellent question. Another question here is, how do you suggest we get the school to change their menu? Should we just suggest the webpage to the school cook, or does it need to be with the district? That's an excellent question, and while it widely varies by district, in general, there is a food service director or a school nutrition director that oversees the menus for all the schools in a district. So likely your best bet is to go to identify who the district director is, the district food service director or school nutrition director. They're likely in charge of the menu and would be most able to utilize the resources. All right, see if any more are coming in. Okay. All right, I think I'm going to send this one to Jerilin or Andrea. How do you suggest schools or child cares handle the seasonality of farm for sourcing local ingredients when most produce is produced during the summer?
Well, one of the examples I showed on the slide is becoming more and more popular, and that is to actually process fresh produce during the summer months and freeze or preserve that for use later on in the school year. You know, I think sometimes we do think about farm to school as just being fruits or vegetables, but we're seeing a lot more school districts around the country using local meats, dairy, you know, baked goods, and other products that are available year-round. The last school district I was at was in Minneapolis, Minnesota, so as you know, it's pretty darn cold up there. And we really focused our farm to school program on storage crops, beets, carrots, sweet potatoes, turnips, parsnips, butternut squash, other types of winter squashes. So, you know, those are very reasonable in cost to just dice up and roast, and with some taste testing and food education, they can become a really affordable and tasty part of a menu.
Excellent. Very nice suggestion. Good workaround. Storage crops. I like it. All right. Another one for our guests. How do you suggest getting in touch with farmers in my area to see about connecting them with the Farm to School program at my school?
That's a great question. You know, every community has different places where you might find farmers. A couple ideas would be to chat with your State Department of Agriculture or check out their website. Sometimes State Departments of Agriculture actually have like a farmer directory or a list of farmers in the area. Your state's Farmers Market Association or a local farmers market would be a great place to go. University extension programs sometimes work a lot with farmers. And some states actually have like a Buy Fresh, Buy Local campaign where you can go to their website and check for farmers. And I would also consider checking out the USDA Farm to School census because you can see which schools in your area might already be buying local and approach them to see what sort of success they've had contacting farmers. You know, we've seen schools reach out to restaurants that are sourcing local food and see if they have any partners who might be willing to work with schools. And if you're still at a loss, don't hesitate to reach out to your farm to school regional lead, and they can help you find some more specific ways to contact farmers that might work best for your area.
Excellent, very nice. Great answers. Y'all are having very good answers to these tough questions. Okay, so here's one about daycare homes. So what recommendations do you have for introducing and encouraging farm-to-child care with a daycare home, so a family child care setting?
That is a great question. I would say start simple and start small. There's a program that the Team Nutrition has designed that's called Grow It, Try It, Like It. And a lot of centers and daycare homes will start growing a plant, and whether or not they make it to the point of being able to harvest it or not, they can always purchase that product and then slice it up and allow the children to try a piece of it. And that way it connects them to that plant and what that plant is going to taste like, what it looks like in its plant form and its developing form.
I think Jerilin gave a really good example earlier too by mentioning a CSA. So, you know, family daycare homes have a slight advantage in the sense that they're very small. They could actually shop at a farmer's market or become a part of a community-supported agriculture share to sort of weave local foods into the school, the child care centers or homes' meals and snacks.
Thank you, Andrea. That's a great add-on.
Very nice suggestions. Very nice suggestions. All right. Well, Andrea and Jerilin, you're doing so well with the questions that I'm going to toss a tough one at you that we may or may not be able to answer, but it did come through. So do you know of any examples of CACFP programs selling excess produce? So I presume that's produce that the program has grown. Any examples of the program then selling this extra produce?
Yeah,
we do. Go ahead.
So for CACFP, I'm not aware of any at this point. Let me see if our nutritionist has any that she is aware of that are actually selling the extra produce. I know Andrea wanted to share that some schools have done that, so I'll let her share that while we hear from you, Jessica.
Yeah, you know, I will say that's definitely allowable, and we are seeing that in some schools and school districts, just because they tend to be a little bit bigger than CACFP centers or homes. So we're seeing a lot more youth farmers markets, youth-run farmers markets. We're seeing school gardens coordinating CSAs or shares of fresh produce for the school community or the surrounding community. You know, I think folks are getting really creative with that excess produce in the garden, especially because, like the prior caller said, you know, sometimes there is an abundance of produce in the summer.
Yeah, so just to follow up, Jessica was also not aware of any CACFP programs, but schools definitely. And just to add that that is something that would be allowable for CACFP programs to do as well.
Excellent, excellent. All right, I'm just going to take a second and read through a couple of these great questions. Okay, so do you know of any program examples of where the school nutrition program purchases food from one of their own school's farms? So if a school has a larger farm that's producing food, can that be purchased by the school nutrition program?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like Jerilin mentioned, schools can use their child nutrition program dollars to purchase inputs for the school garden, so they can actually be supporting it in that way. But we've also seen examples where the school nutrition services department is buying back produce. Let's say, for example, it's the 4-H or the agriculture education class that's growing the food in the garden. Then the school nutrition department, typically through an interdepartmental transfer, can buy that produce. Let's say it's a nonprofit organization that's managing that school garden. Then the child nutrition program can actually purchase it from that nonprofit organization. So yeah, there are many models where school garden produce is getting purchased from that by the child nutrition program.
Excellent, and I will give a shout out to my home state of Maine. Presque Isle, Maine is a school district, Presque Isle, or RSU1, that has a relatively large farm that both sells the excess produce to the public as well as to the school nutrition program. So do a little Googling of that, and you can help.
Awesome. I'll throw out there also Denver Public Schools is a really great example of that. Minneapolis Public Schools is working on that, was working on that as well. You may want to, I know our school garden page at the Office of Community Food Systems has some good examples as well.
Excellent, thank you. Andrea and Jerilin, could you share any information about how schools might be able to apply for a farm-to-school grant in the future?
That's a very good question. Yeah, so our timeline for the USDA Farm-to-School grants is that the application typically comes out in September, and it's due in December. So keep an eye out around the start of the school year for that Farm-to-School Grant RFA. The best way to be notified of that is to sign up for our newsletter, The Dirt, which is every 2 times a month you'll get a great email in your inbox with news and updates, and that's where you'll be the first to know when the grant request for applications is out. We then award the grants in May, so we're about to award this round of grants coming up next month.
Excellent, thank you. Exciting opportunity. All right, I'm going to take a moment to just let folks know that this webinar and this question and answer session is being recorded, so you will be able to find a recording of it on the lunchbox in a couple weeks. So it's definitely going to be available for future viewing and sharing. Here is a great question around cost analysis, and we might all be able to try to tackle this one, but Jerilin and Andrea, I'll let you begin. Are there any cost analysis studies that have been done to assess the excess cost or money saved from farm to CACFP programs? I get asked this question often and haven't done any self-analysis yet for our program, but it would be helpful to have a reference.
You know, there are some studies out there that show some things like increases in participation over time, which therefore brings in higher revenues. I know that the National Farm to School Network is updating their most recent compilation of farm to school research. I'm imagining that that will include some child care and CCFP programs. But because the scope of different child and adult care feeding programs are unique, you know, you're talking about a home that's serving 10 children, you're talking about a center that's serving 100 children, you know, your economics are going to be different for every site. So it is a little bit difficult to generalize. Do you have anything to add, Jen?
I would just echo all of that, and primarily the largest benefit is that it does, I don't want to say it does increase participation, but it's definitely an attractive part of a center to know that your child is going to be fed a nutritious local food. And we have just heard by the wayside of conversations that they do see some increases in participation because of that.
You know, one of the other things that I'll add is that we did see in the USDA Farm to School census that farm to school programs do contribute to less food waste, and that's less foods that children waste on their plates once they've been served, but that also means less food that's wasted when you have a head of romaine that's green all the way down to the bottom, as opposed to a head of romaine where you have to throw half of it away because it's been sitting on a truck for days and days coming across the country. So there's better yield on the front end and there's less food waste on the back end, and that contributes to the bottom line.
Absolutely, very good. And I also want to share that I think that's one of the valuable resources of the Chef Ann Foundation recipes is that the cost analysis is there. So with the recipe that we showed being 52 cents per serving, you know, that gives you something to compare to in your current menu planning. You know, what is the cost of your current entree, and is this more, is this less? Could you do an equal exchange? Those types of things. So be sure as you're looking through the recipes to check out the cost analysis, and certainly some are a little bit more costly than others. All right, one last question here, which is a good one. How do you think these resources can be used to change policy? Is there work being done towards policy change? So I'm going to let Andrea and Jerilin begin with that one, if you'd like.
Well, you know, I think the fact that there was an Office of Community Food Systems established in the law is a testament to the fact that folks want more local foods on their children's trays and in their children's meals. And I think that's a direct reflection of some of the advocacy work that has been done in this area. And we're seeing a new child and adult care food program, meal pattern that is moving in that direction of more fresh, healthy options. So I think that's all I have to say on the policy realm. I think we have seen in the past few years, at least in the USDA realm, this shift towards supporting farm-to-school and farm-to-child nutrition programs in a very real way.
Excellent, very nice, and that's really good to hear on a larger national level. And I want to emphasize that on more of a local or program level, that there are definitely opportunities to begin integrating farm-to-school, farm-to-child care into a couple different places. One being the local school wellness policy. So every school district has a wellness policy that provides governance for the types of foods and standards for the foods that are offered and available at school, along with other wellness topics. And that is an opportunity. I'm beginning to see wellness policies incorporate language around the importance of local food. So that's one consideration there. Another place where you can begin to institutionalize farm-to-school and local food language is in the RFP, or request for proposal, that a school might send out to either a vendor or a food service management company. And we have examples of those for folks to be able to check out. So excellent. If there are any questions that were not answered today, I want to welcome everyone to reach out to us. We're going to post Andrea, Jerilin's, and my Heidi email available for everyone to ask any questions that didn't get answered today. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us. Thank you so much to Andrea and Jerilin. You added a tremendous amount of content and knowledge. The three of us are here to support all of you in your endeavors, whether you're a parent, an administrator, a school food provider, or a child care food provider. Keep up the amazing work and know that we are here for you. Thank you all so much.